Do you ever feel like you're just constantly doing things, running around, ticking boxes, but it just leads to more stress, more worry, and somehow less actual living?
Oh, absolutely. Like you're on this hamster wheel, always chasing the next result, the next outcome.
Yeah, and you never quite find that peace, that satisfaction, just in the effort itself. It feels like such a common struggle today.
It really is. We get so caught up in the finish line, don't we? We forget about the journey, the process itself.
Exactly. And that's why today we're doing a deep dive into something ancient, but I think incredibly relevant: karma yoga.
Often called the yoga of action or maybe the path of selfless service.
Right. And our mission here in this deep dive is really to explore how this profound spiritual path has got centuries of wisdom behind it,
Hmm.
how it offers this radical way to reframe basically every single thing we do.
Hmm.
We want to unpack how it can turn, mundane tasks into meaningful practices, maybe cut down on anxiety and unlock a deeper sense of fulfillment right here, right now.
In your everyday world, it's very practical.
Okay, so let's get into it. Our main insights today are coming straight from key texts on karma yoga, especially the Bhagavad Gita. That's kind of our guiding star.
And we're also drawing on some other reports and analyses to round things out.
So, karma yoga. Karma means action, yoga means union. Simple enough, right?
On the surface, yes, but when you combine them, how you combine them in daily life, that's where it gets profound. We're talking about using action itself as the spiritual vehicle.
Transforming the everyday into something sacred, using your to-do list as stepping stones.
That's a great way to put it. It's not just about doing good deeds in the conventional sense, it's much deeper.
It's about how the act itself and our whole attitude towards it becomes the path. Because the Gita tells us something really fundamental, doesn't it? You actually can't stop acting.
Right. Chapter 3, verse 5, it basically says, look, nobody can stay inactive even for a moment. We're all compelled to act by our very nature, by the forces within us.
That's not just physical stuff like moving around.
No, not at all. Our thoughts, our desires, even our worries and anxieties, those are all subtle forms of action, subtle karma.
Huh. Okay. So if activity is just inescapable part of being alive.
But then the spiritual goal isn't to somehow stop it. That's impossible. The goal is to fundamentally reorient it.
To transform this constant stream of doing things.
From something that binds us, that causes attachment and suffering, into a genuine path towards liberation, towards union.
So this really pushes back against that idea that being spiritual means you have to, withdraw from the world, sit on a mountaintop somewhere.
Completely. The Gita is very direct about this. It says you don't achieve perfection just by stopping work.
It even calls someone a hypocrite if they stop acting outwardly but are still dwelling on things inwardly.
Yeah, exactly. True spiritual progress, the Gita argues, isn't in stopping action. It's in perfecting the performance of action, doing it skillfully with the right mindset.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting for me. Karma yoga isn't about adding more spiritual activities to your already packed schedule.
No, not at all. It's a method, a technique for how you perform all your existing activities.
Your job, chores at home, how you relate to people, your civic duties, all of it.
All of it. The whole spectrum of human engagement becomes your spiritual practice. It applies to, as some texts say, any action in any profession or family activities.
So a homemaker, a nurse, a carpenter, even a garbage collector. It makes no distinction.
None whatsoever. Any task, no matter how ordinary it seems, can be spiritualized.
Oh, what's the key?
It's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's all about the internal attitude.
Okay.
Selfless service, detachment from the results, consciously offering your efforts to something higher. God, the universe, the greater good, however you frame it.
So by changing your inner motivation,
Yeah.
the external act itself gets transformed.
Precisely. It goes from being potentially binding karma to liberating yoga. And this truly democratizes the whole spiritual path. It's not just for monks or nuns anymore.
It's for everyone. Your whole life becomes the practice.
Lastly, life itself is the field.
Now, the Bhagavad Gita is really the classic text here, the locus classicus for karma yoga. And the setting, it's so dramatic.
It really is. Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield. Kurukshetra.
Arjuna's crisis,
Yeah.
facing his own family, his teachers, wanting to just give up his duty as a warrior. It feels like such a universal metaphor.
Absolutely. It mirrors our own struggles, doesn't it? When our duties clash with our personal feelings, our attachments, our fears.
And Krishna doesn't tell him to run away.
No, he guides him to engage with his duty, but crucially, with a completely transformed consciousness. He even says action is superior to inaction. You need action even just to maintain your body.
Chapter 3, Karma Yoga. Really lays the groundwork. It redefines sacrifice, yajna.
Mm-hmm. Traditionally, that meant these elaborate fire rituals, often for material gain.
But Krishna broadens it.
He universalizes it completely. He says any action done selflessly for the welfare of the world without any personal motive, just as a sacred offering, that is true sacrifice. Duty performed as an obligation to the divine order, not for what you can get out of it.
And then there's that idea of the cosmic wheel, the chakra.
Yes, it's this beautiful image of interconnectedness. Beings need food, food comes from rain, rain from sacrifice, sacrifice requires action.
So we have a role to play in keeping that wheel turning.
A moral and cosmic imperative, yes. To not contribute through selfless action is, as Krishna puts it, to live in vain.
Wow. And even enlightened people, they still act.
They do, not for themselves, because they have no personal needs left, but for lokasangraha,
Meaning?
the welfare, the guidance, the solidarity of the world. To set an example, King Janaka is mentioned as someone who reached perfection purely through action.
Yeah, and then we get to the verse, the big one.
Yeah.
Chapter 2, verse 47. It's probably the most quoted verse on karma yoga.
It truly encapsulates the entire philosophy. It's incredibly dense. The Sanskrit is karmaniya vadikarastima falehutachana makarmaphala tiparuma tesengot pakarmani.
And the usual translation goes something like, you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results, and never be attached to not doing your duty.
That's a good rendering. It gives us 4 really clear injunctions, 4 core principles for the karma yogi.
Okay, let's break those down. What's the first one?
First, act. Perform your duty. Your adhikara, your right or authority, extends only to performing the action, your dharma. It's a call to engage, not withdraw.
Got it. Second.
Second, renounce the fruits. Ma phaleshukatachona, never to the fruits. You have to let go of desire for or attachment to the results, the outcomes, success, failure, reward, punishment, let them go.
Okay, that's huge. Third.
Third, renounce the motive. Ma karma phaladaturba, don't let the potential fruit be the reason you act. The hetu, the motive, shouldn't be the reward. Act because it's the right thing to do, because it's your duty.
Not for what you'll get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, the fourth injunction.
Renounce an action. Vadisangos vakarmani, don't get attached to a karma, to doing nothing. Don't shrink from action out of laziness or fear the outcome or its complexities.
So taken together, this single verse is like the complete code of conduct. It tells you everything you need to know about the attitude.
That's incredibly concise and powerful. Okay, so that's the framework. Now, the nuts and bolts. How do we actually practice this? What are the operational principles? You mentioned nishkama karma.
Right, that's central. Nishkama karma, literally action without desire, but specifically without selfish desire for its fruits. This is the absolute key.
And this is different from, what's the opposite?
Sakama karma. That's action driven by selfish motives, expecting personal gain, wealth, fame, power, or whatever. Sakama karma creates those binding impressions, the samskaras, that keep you stuck in the cycle of suffering, samsara.
Whereas nishkama karma,
It purifies the mind. Because you're not acting out of greed or fear or ego, the action doesn't create new binding karma. It leads towards liberation.
but wait, if you're detached from the fruit, doesn't that mean you won't try as hard? That you'll be sloppy or apathetic?
That's a common misconception. It's actually the opposite. The Gita says, yoga karmasu kashalam. Yoga is skill in action.
Skill?
Yeah,
How does detachment lead to skill?
think about it. When your mind isn't constantly jumping ahead, worrying about, will I succeed? What will people think? What if I fail? When all that mental noise is gone.
You can focus completely on the task at hand.
Exactly. All your energy, all your concentration goes into doing the action itself as perfectly as possible. This undivided attention naturally leads to greater efficiency, precision, and skill. It's not about not caring. It's about caring deeply about the quality of the action in the present moment.
So it's not about killing all desire. That sounds, well, almost impossible and maybe a bit lifeless.
Right. It's not about eradicating all desires. It's about discriminating. The target is the selfish, ego-driven desires for personal gain, recognition, control.
But desires for, say, spiritual growth or the well-being of others.
Those are perfectly fine. Even the desire for liberation itself, moksha, is considered positive. The absolute critical factor here is the intention, the sankalpa, behind the action.
The motive.
The motive, the external action itself is neutral. Think about charity. If you give money mainly to get your name on a plaque, that's sakama karma.
Still self-serving.
Right, but if you're, say, washing the dishes and you do it with a mental attitude of offering it up, serving the divine, serving your family selflessly, that simple act becomes profound karma yoga.
So the inner attitude determines the spiritual quality,
Completely.
and practicing this leads to equanimity,
Yeah.
inner balance.
Yes, samatvam. The Gita defines yoga itself as this even-mindedness. Remain even-minded in success and failure, it says. This even-mindedness is called yoga.
So the goal is to stay balanced, whatever happens, not get too high with success or too low with failure.
Exactly. To stay steady through all the pairs of opposites. Pleasure, pain, gain, loss, praise, blame. It's not about becoming an emotionless robot. It's an active dispassion, a stability that watches events without getting totally swept away by them.
This detachment from results, it really does sound like a psychological superpower, especially today with all the stress and anxiety around outcomes.
It truly is. Think about what causes so much stress.
Mm.
Attachment to specific results, fear of failure. Modern psychology confirms this again and again.
So karma yoga offers a way to neutralize that distress.
Yes, by consciously offering up the results or simply letting go of your demand for a specific outcome, you shift your entire focus. You bring it back to the quality of your action right here, right now.
And does that relate to that flow state people talk about, where you're totally absorbed in what you're doing?
Absolutely. When you're intensely focused on the present moment, free from the what-ifs about the future, the anxious ego kind of dissolves into the activity itself. Work becomes intrinsically motivating. You find joy in the process, not just waiting for the outcome.
And the paradox is, by letting go of desperately needing a certain outcome,
You actually create the optimal mental conditions for success to happen naturally while preserving your inner peace regardless. It's quite remarkable.
okay, moving deeper. Beyond detachment from fruits, there's this principle of non-doership, transcending the ego. This sounds pretty danced and maybe difficult.
It is. This is where the practice really deepens. We have this sense of being the doer, right? The ego, the amkara, literally the I maker, constantly identifies itself as the agent. I did this, I achieved that, or I failed.
Taking all the credit and all the blame.
Exactly. And that's the root of so much pride, vanity, defensiveness, and those selfish motives we talked about. The goal of karma yoga is ultimately to weaken and see through this I maker.
By realizing you're not really the one doing it.
In a sense, yes. By cultivating the understanding that the true actor is a higher power god, the divine nature, the gunas, operating through the psychophysical mechanism, and you are merely an instrument. Nimitta matram, as the Gita says, just an instrument.
That's a huge shift. What's a practical way to cultivate that?
The key practice is Ishvara Pranatana,
Offering actions to God.
offering all your actions, and importantly, all their results, to God or to your conception of a higher purpose. Krishna says in the Gita, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, whatever austerities you perform, do that as an offering unto me.
So every act becomes a form of worship, like puja.
Precisely. Work becomes worship. When you offer it up like that, the ego simply can't claim it. It can't take the credit for success or feel crushed by failure because it's all surrendered. This is a powerful solvent for the ego.
And this clearly connects karma yoga to bhakti yoga, the path of devotion.
Absolutely. It requires faith, love, surrender. The paths are deeply intertwined.
Okay, let's pull back for the big picture. What is the ultimate aim of all this practice? You mentioned purification, fulfillment, and moksha.
Yes. The most immediate and tangible benefit is chitta shuddhi, purification of the mind, or purification of consciousness.
Cleaning the mental mirror, so to speak.
That's a classic analogy. Selfless action starves the ego and reduces craving. Equanimity weakens the grip of attachment and aversion. Surrendering doership dissolves pride. All these mental impurities or malas get gradually cleansed. The mind becomes clearer, calmer, more focused.
Which is essential for deeper insight, right? Like for jnana yoga, the path of knowledge.
Exactly. A purified mind is a prerequisite for truly understanding higher spiritual truths.
And how does it help with breaking free from samsara, that cycle of birth, death, suffering?
Well, every action done with selfish desire creates those subtle impressions, samskaras, that bind us. They compel future actions and reactions, keeping the wheel turning. Karma yoga acts like a sword, severing that chain.
Because nishkama karma doesn't create new binding impressions.
Right. It's like planting a seed that's already been fried, it won't sprout. While you still have to experience the results of past actions that are already ripening, prarabdha karma, you do so with equanimity. And crucially, you start creating new karmic debt, agami karma. This clears the path for liberation.
And beyond just purification, is the practice itself fulfilling?
Deeply so. It's described as an inward journey, inherently fulfilling and satisfying. When you're free from the constant anxiety about results, the stress of personal gain or loss, the action itself becomes a source of intrinsic joy and peace. You find contentment in the doing.
which ultimately leads to the supreme goal,
Moksha.
moksha.
Liberation. Freedom from samsara, from suffering, from the ignorance that makes us identify with our limited self instead of our true, infinite nature. By purifying the mind, dissolving the ego, severing karmic bonds, karma yoga allows the practitioner to realize their true self, the Atman, and its oneness with the ultimate reality, Brahman. As the Gita says, by performing actions without attachment, one attains the supreme.
Now, karma yoga is usually presented as one of the four main yogic paths.
Yeah.
How does it fit in with the others, like bhakti, jnana, raja yoga?
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, traditionally they're seen as catering to different temperaments. Karma yoga is often said to be for the active, outgoing type, using the will and the body.
And bhakti for the emotional types, using the heart.
Yes. Jnana for the intellectual, philosophical type, using reason and discernment. And Raja Yoga for the more mystical, empirical type, focusing directly on controlling the mind and its energies. 4 different routes up the same mountain.
So, are they really separate paths? Or do they overlap? This is an important question for anyone trying to figure out what works for them.
That's key. When you look closely, they aren't really mutually exclusive at all. They're deeply integrated and synergistic. Real, balanced spiritual growth usually involves elements of all 4 because they address different parts of our being.
Like branches of the same tree.
Exactly. Think about it. Karma yoga needs bhakti when you offer your actions to the divine. Cultivating non-doership in karma yoga requires the discernment, viveka, emphasized in jnana yoga. A devotee naturally expresses their love through selfless service. That's karma yoga.
And an enlightened sage, realized through jnana, still acts for the world lokasangraha.
Right. And Raja Yoga, controlling the mind, needs the ethical foundation and purification that comes from karma and bhakti. Each path supports and strengthens the others. Weaving them together helps purify the whole personality, action, emotion, intellect, will. Apparent contradictions often dissolve when you see the integrated picture.
This all sounds incredibly powerful in theory, but, for someone listening, living a busy modern life, how do we actually do this? How does karma yoga translate into our day-to-day reality?
The real magic is in transforming the mundane. Any ordinary activity, cleaning the house, cooking dinner, driving to work, engaging in a hobby, can become a spiritual offering if you shift your internal attitude.
Yeah.
By bringing mindfulness to it, performing it with a spirit of service, even if it's just service to your own well-being or your family's, and consciously letting go of attachment to the outcome. Like, instead of rushing through making your bed, you do it mindfully as an offering of order and care. It stops being a burden and becomes an opportunity.
This sounds like the spirit of seva.
Precisely. Seva, selfless service, is a cornerstone. And it's not just formal volunteering, though that's great too. It's the small things. Helping a neighbor carry groceries, picking up litter, offering a kind word, or even just a genuine smile to a stranger.
I heard about Babaji's 7 kinds of offerings.
Yes, that's a lovely teaching. Offering physical labor, a compassionate heart, a warm glance, a soft smile, kind words, giving up your seat, offering shelter. You can start small, wherever you are.
But it's crucial not to burn out, right? That idea of pouring from an empty cup.
Absolutely essential, and often overlooked. The practice has to start with taking care of yourself. Your primary duty, in a sense, is to maintain your own physical, mental, and emotional well-being. That's not selfish. It's the necessary foundation. You need a full cup to serve sustainably.
Okay, what about the workplace? That's where many of us spend so much time and energy. How does karma yoga apply there, especially if your job doesn't feel obviously service-oriented?
Ideally, your work aligns with your swadharma, your innate nature and talents. And yes, jobs in healthcare, teaching, etc. seem like natural fits.
But what if you're, say, an accountant or a software engineer?
Any work can become karma yoga. It's about shifting your perspective to find the service aspect. The accountant ensures financial order, which supports many people. The software engineer creates tools that connect people or solve problems. Focus on how your work contributes, even indirectly, to the larger good.
So, kind of treating your workplace like an ashram, in a way.
You could think of it like that. 3 key things. 1, cultivate an attitude of offering. See your job as your duty, perform it to the best of your ability, take accountability, meet deadlines, all as an offering to a higher purpose, whether that's God, humanity, or just professional integrity.
Oh.
2, cultivate equanimity. This is huge at work. Maintain inner balance through the inevitable ups and downs, promotions, praise. Accept with humility, not ego inflation. Setbacks, criticism, face without despair or resentment. Like a lawyer preparing the best case, then mentally detaching from the verdict. Don't get overly attached to the company or your specific role either.
And 3.
3, foster harmonious interactions. Treat colleagues with fairness and respect. Avoid office politics, gossip, harboring enmity. Be a supportive presence, especially if you're in a leadership role.
What about rarely tough situations, difficult colleagues, ethical gray areas, maybe even having to do something unpleasant as part of your job?
For difficult people, the key is that internal detachment. Try not to let their behavior disturb your inner peace. Remember, praise and blame are often directed at the role you occupy, not your true self. But detachment isn't passivity.
Right. It doesn't mean letting bad things happen.
Exactly. If there's unethical behavior, your dharma might require you to speak up or take action, but do it with discernment for the greater good, not out of personal anger or vindictiveness. It's about right action, which isn't always the nice or easy action.
Okay, personal relationships. This feels like maybe the most intense, challenging arena for karma yoga.
It often is because our attachments are usually strongest there. The core practice is to offer love, care, and support unconditionally.
Meaning, without expecting specific things back, like love, gratitude, validation, or certain behaviors.
Exactly. It transforms relationships from being transactional, I do this for you, so you'll do that for me, into pure selfless offerings. The act of loving becomes its own reward.
And there's that idea of seeing the divine in the other person.
Yes, it's a powerful technique. Consciously try to see the Atman, the universal self, dwelling within the other person, behind their personality. Then orient your actions as service to that indwelling divinity. Relationships become profound opportunities for growth, mirrors showing us our attachments and chances to practice seeing oneness. The underlying thought becomes, I am serving you because I am serving God in you.
This sounds like detachment again. But you stressed earlier, detachment isn't indifference. That seems really critical here. Let's unpack that difference again.
It's crucial, yes. Yogic detachment in relationships is not emotional coldness, aloofness, or suppressing your feelings. That's a major misunderstanding.
So what is it?
It's the absence of selfish clinging, possessiveness, and ego-driven demands on the other person. It's not demanding that they fulfill your emotional needs or behave exactly as you want them to.
So you still love fully.
Yes, you love fully, openly, with genuine warmth and emotion, but you release the demand for a specific response. Love becomes a free, unconditional gift you offer, rather than something you trade or use to control. Your own inner peace and happiness stop being contingent on how the other person acts. You become a stable, unwavering source of love, not just reacting all the time.
Okay, now like any deep philosophy, karma yoga probably attracts some misconceptions. What are the common ones we should clear up? Like, is it just a justification for free labor or exploitation?
That's a big one, and completely false. True karma yoga is defined by the inner state of the practitioner, their selfless intent and detachment. It has nothing to do with whether they receive fair compensation. Using the philosophy to exploit others is a distortion, pure and simple.
What about thinking it's some kind of karmic scorekeeping system, doing good deeds just to rack up spiritual points for a better future?
Also misses the point entirely. That's still acting with a desire for a future reward, which is sakama karma. The whole essence of nishkama karma is renouncing the desire for any personal reward, even subtle ones like spiritual merit or a good rebirth. The action itself, done selflessly, is the reward.
And the idea of seeing suffering and saying, oh, well, it's their karma, and doing nothing, using it as an excuse for apathy.
A very dangerous misunderstanding. From the yogic viewpoint, when you witness suffering, that event becomes your karma. It presents you with a situation, a duty, an opportunity to respond with compassion and appropriate action. Choosing indifference actually generates negative karma for you.
And finally, the misconception that the goal is to avoid action altogether.
Directly contradicted by the Gita itself. Krishna repeatedly tells Arjuna that action is necessary. Action is superior to inaction. Even thinking is action. The goal isn't to stop acting, but to act rightly, skillfully, and selflessly.
It really sounds like the biggest hurdle in all of this is the ego, the ahamkara. It just doesn't want to let go of being the doer, does it?
It's the primary obstacle, no question. The ego wants the credit, wants to avoid blame, wants control, wants gratification, selflessness, surrender, non-doership. These are fundamentally alien to its nature.
So how do you work with that resistance?
Gradually. Start small. Practice manageable acts of selfless service where the ego doesn't feel too threatened. Cultivate mindfulness. Just observe the ego's tricks. Watch the craving for praise, the sting of criticism, the urge to control, and keep practicing that conscious offering. Mentally give the credit for successes to a higher power, or just to the team or the universe. Little by little, it loosens its grip.
What about those really profound challenges, like situations where your duty requires an action that causes suffering? Maybe a doctor giving painful treatment, or law enforcement arresting someone, or trying to maintain equanimity during intense personal tragedy like losing a loved one. That feels extremely difficult.
These are not easy questions, and they touch on the most advanced stages of practice. The perspective offered is nuanced. In difficult duties, the focus remains on the purity of your intention, is free from malice, and the righteousness of the duty itself. You act according to Dharma, recognizing that the complex web of consequences is ultimately beyond your individual control or full understanding. You do your part rightly.
And with personal suffering, equanimity doesn't mean you don't feel grief.
Not at all. It's not about suppressing grief or pretending tragedy isn't painful. It's about striving for acceptance in the face of that pain. Accepting the reality of the situation without railing against it endlessly. Seeing all results, pleasant or painful, as prasad, a kind of consecrated offering or grace received back from the divine, accepting it with a steady mind, even amidst tears.
So it's about expanding your capacity, your heart.
Yes. Gradually reducing that intense attachment to me and mine, seeing your personal suffering within the larger context of universal suffering that touches all beings, and from that place, responding with compassionate action where possible, and cultivating inner fortitude. It's definitely an advanced state, the fruit of long and dedicated practice.
So let's try to wrap this up. What does all this mean for you, the listener? Karma Yoga, it seems, is this incredibly profound but also really practical path. It redefines work, duty, everything we do.
Its core principles: selfless action, non-attachment to results, letting go of that I am the doer feeling. These are powerful tools. They help dismantle the ego, purify the mind, and build that inner balance, that equanimity.
And it's not a path in isolation, is it? It works best when integrated with other aspects of spiritual growth, devotion, wisdom, mindfulness. It's holistic.
Absolutely. It addresses every part of who we are.
And in our crazy modern world, it feels like a potent antidote to so much of the stress, the anxiety, the feeling of meaninglessness that many people experience. It gives us a way to bring our deepest values right into our jobs, our families, our daily routines.
It definitely presents challenges the ego fights back, but the rewards, that sense of inner peace and purpose found in action, are incredibly deep.
Karma Yoga isn't asking you to run away from the world. It's asking you to engage with it more fully, more skillfully.
And with a much more purified heart.
So as you go about your day after listening to this, maybe just consider this. What if the greatest spiritual journey isn't about going somewhere else to a monastery or ashram? What if right here, right now, in the middle of your most ordinary actions?
What if every single task, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, is actually an invitation? An invitation to connect with something larger than your individual self.
And to find profound freedom right there within the flow of life itself.